Shyne. Who is Shyne? Shyne. He was a rapper on Bad Boys label way back in the late 1990s, was going to be the next big up and coming thing, a bidding war for his music. And then the nightclub shooting happened. The nightclub shooting with Diddy and Jennifer Lopez and Shyne. Shyne taking the rap for the shooting all these years later. Now there's a documentary coming out called The Honorable Shyne, which is on Hulu. It revisits that infamous moment back in the late 1990s and talks about what transpired that night and also goes into the Diddy saga a bit, but from a whole different perspective. It really paints an interesting character arc of what was Diddy doing back in the 90s and to who he has become today. Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent, joining me to discuss. I had a chance to watch this last night. It's a really interesting story of redemption. Somebody who went through just living in the streets, getting some fame, and then falling down, and now the man could actually end up possibly being the prime minister of what's the country that he is in. I'll find it here, but off the top of my head, it eludes me. But a man that's just really come from absolutely nowhere. Diddy, however, at that time, he said, "You take the fall for this shooting." All these years later, let's talk about that. Is this something that could come back and haunt Diddy with these accusations that have always been out there, but now certainly probably have a little bit more legitimacy, considering all of the other things that have transpired around him?
Well, I have to say, Tony, this was something I was actually surprised that wasn't in the RICO indictment.
Yeah.
When you take RICO, of course, now you don't have statute of limitations concerns because the statute stops at the last act committed by that organization. And obviously, that's very recent. So they could go all the way back. And I think they'll probably continue to work on weaving all of that together because, of course, it's well believed that actually Diddy did that shooting
Yeah.
and that J-Lo knows a lot of information about it.
That's an interesting aspect to this because the woman who was shot actually appears in that documentary on Hulu. She was shot point blank in the face, survived, and she said this whole time it was Diddy who did it. And Shine has said, "I pulled my gun because someone was pulling it on me, but I never actually fired." That also comes out in the documentary. But Diddy is the one who allegedly actually made those shots. How do you go back on a case all these years later, other than eyewitness testimony, which we all know is not usually the greatest? But you have a lot of people saying that Diddy is the one who did this, and J Lo knows more about this. I mean, how can you reopen an investigation like this? Diddy's already been acquitted on this, but with new evidence coming to light, could that reopen some of this?
Yeah, it absolutely could. And it could be added into this RICO indictment.
Hmm.
Remember, he wasn't charged federally with anything.
Yeah.
So it's not a double jeopardy situation. These are separate set of facts that could be part of this organization and illegal acts done by this organization. So yes, and I saw that very moving statement made by the victim
Hmm.
that was shot in the face,
Yeah.
and she was unequivocal.
Oh,
This
yeah.
wasn't, confusion, and it's not saying some stranger. I mean, this was Diddy. You would know Diddy or not, so it wasn't that situation. She knew him.
Hmm.
So, how that could be overlooked is just shocking, but the bottom line is Shine took the fall.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Now he may actually end up becoming the prime minister of Belize, which is an
Oh,
amazing comeback story. I mean, of all the people who were from that era on Bad Boy Records, one of them who looked like he was down and out for the count just as he went out of the gate, probably someone who at the end of the day has risen higher than all of them to become or may possibly become the prime minister of Belize, but having such a positive involvement in life over there.
yeah, it's always amazed me, the ability of people either to, A, not know B, not understand, or C, just completely forgive
Mhm.
these individuals who have been involved in dicey situations and circumstances and have not been sort of good citizenry, if you will. But nevertheless, it's interesting that he would even be considered. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Marion Barry. It
Mhm.
just brings my mind back to that. A guy that was, and maybe it's because I was good friends with the undercover officer and the case agent that worked that case. I mean, he did a lot of wrong, was convicted, and then got another bite at the apple, and he got it.
Yeah.
So people forgive and people overlook and people don't know. And, for a guy like this with absolutely no experience running a nation to be even considered, it's a little mind boggling.
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of is. If you were to say all those years ago in '99, where is ever going to be in 25 years? I don't think we'd be predicting this. He's going to be possibly prime minister, and Diddy's might be going away for life as one of the biggest monsters that has ever been seen. Diddy did send out a cease and desist letter for this documentary. Didn't really do anything, didn't stop anything. But the thing that he wanted to have made sure was that the documentary is factually correct, which just translates to let's put Diddy in a good light. Is Diddy realizing now that maybe he doesn't have the power that he once had to shut people up from speaking as to what reality is, even though it doesn't necessarily reflect positively on him?
I think so. In every case you work, whenever you have individuals that had a lot of power, and it doesn't matter what the venue was, in other words, whether they're cartels or whether they're running street dope but control a particular neighborhood, or whether they were part of a Italian crime family, when you put them in prison, slowly their power dissipates, especially when it's believed they're never going to get out.
Mhm.
So once the money runs out, they're really powerless. He's got a lot of money to go through, but him being in prison, he's really becoming powerless.
One of the interesting pieces of it, and I don't know if this is an omen or what this was, but one of Diddy's bodyguards, Gene Deal, talks about when Diddy was acquitted and then when Shine at that very same time was sent to prison. Apparently, Diddy went out into Central Park in New York with a shaman to do some sort of, look at me ceremony. Smoke being something like sage or something being brushed on each side of him. Then he goes and grabs a dove as a symbol of whatever peace, release, throws the dove in the air. This is according to the bodyguard. And the dove comes flying back, like not flying, but just lands back on the ground dead. Uh,
Ah,
yeah, that must have been an interesting moment for everyone at that point in time. It was just almost like a sign of things to come, you'd think.
yeah, you got to be careful. It's like when you're an attorney, you have to make sure not to ask a question you don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure you want to be throwing doves in the air if you don't know what's going to happen next, trying to make a point. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, very much so. Diddy still asking for bail, going back to the judge. By the time this airs, we may have an answer to that. Do you think Diddy's ever going to get bail here before this trial, or is he so deep in this that it's just going to be constant request after constant request, but deny, deny, deny?
I don't know if I've ever been more confident in the response I'm going to give. There is no way, under any condition, under any parameters, no matter how much money he puts on the line and where he says he's going to stay and who's going to monitor him, that he will ever, ever, ever be let out prior to the adjudication of this case.
Yeah. It's I think speaking more so to his arrogance, his narcissism to think that oh yes, if I give you these certain stipulations, I'm going to be locked in my mansion, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Yeah, witness intimidation, all that can also take place in a setting like that, and there's already been allegations of that with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's two prongs you look at. Are you a danger to the community and are you a flight risk?
Hmm.
And they easily, meaning the government, meets both of those easily
Yeah.
because of the money he has, because of the planes, because of the individuals that are at accessible to him. And then he's a danger to the community based on his past actions that are alleged, combined with what he apparently has been doing in his cell.
Yeah.
I mean, they tossed his cell, they have evidence thereof, they have the telephone communications. Apparently, he's been using phones of other people in the cell block. So Diddy just dug dug more of a hole.
Hmm.
It's just amazing to me that I think somebody who has lived without any sort of parameters,
Yeah.
he still thinks he can live without any sort of parameters, without repercussion, and it's not going to happen anymore. Diddy's done.
Flight risk. I mean, is there any place that Diddy could go and continue to live out his life without any sort of charges or extradition or not being known as to where or to who he is, to live any semblance of life in peace if he were to be granted this and let's say he were to flee.
I think he could go to Vietnam.
Hmm.
There's no extradition treaty with them and other countries, but Vietnam in particular, I think, could be a safe haven for someone like Diddy. I have always been perplexed that he never left,
Hmm.
that he never seemed to grasp the allegations he was going to be facing. It's just out of touch with reality,
Yeah.
maybe just too much ganja and other drugs over a period of time that made him not understand uh, what was coming at him and what it was going to mean, because he didn't understand it. And if I would have been him in his situation, I would have left.
No. He had the chance. He really did. He even did a little gallivanting around the world right before the arrest took place, but came right back. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't try to do the Donna Adelson move over to Vietnam, but he had the opportunity. But again, I think you're right. He did not realize the gravity of it, and I think he thought he could still beat this. His own narcissism and arrogance actually taking him down this time.
Yeah, and I really do believe that sometimes people when if you're I mean this seriously, if you're partying all the time and I posted and have seen all the pictures of just the constant partying from the minute he got up, it would seem, at least from pictures that paparazzi took, to the minute he went to bed. You just wonder how clear his mind was. And then the other problem is you surround yourself by yes men.
Yeah.
Oh, everything's going to be fine. Oh, this is going to be okay. And you're, like you said, gallivanting around on your plane.
Yeah.
I just truly believe he was out of touch with what he was facing.
I agree. I will note this: when I was just on my trip and I was down in St. Martin, I did have a chance to see one of the Diddy yachts that was in one of the cases. I believe the one involving Christian Combs, because he had rented out some yachts there, and I was just looking around. I'm like, this looks familiar, and I looked it up. I'm like, hey, look, everybody, it's the Diddy yacht. Which I don't know is something anyone's looking for on their vacation, but for me, it was like, hey, this is kind of interesting. But obviously, horrible things that took place on that. Fascinating story as it continues to develop. We'll keep following it. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.